All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. I am keeping an eye quick on the attendee list. Every time we start this, whenever we open up the room and it's silent, I always think we should have some elevator music playing or something. Because when it's just one person and you're waiting for the it's just so quiet. So let's do this. Just so I can be sure people are here and present and I'm not talking to myself, let's do what we always do. If you could go ahead as you're logging in, go ahead and drop your name and organiz no, name, organization, and role in the chat. Let's do that. We'll start there. Phew. Thanks, Nina. First, I thought I was talking to myself. I was getting a little nervous. All right. Hello, everybody. I'm curious too. Is anyone in the Chicagoland area? We're gonna give it like another minute for people to log in. Is anyone in the Chicagoland area with me? Anyone? Bueller? We had some big storms yesterday in the suburbs at least. And we have some more storms coming this afternoon. So thankfully it's not until about 3 p.m. Otherwise, if you lost me, it would have been because of the storm and a power outage. But alas, we're going to go ahead and just get started with the content because that's what you're here for, not to hear me talk about the Chicago weather. All right. So, kicking things off. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Um, this webinar today is the first, well, technically it's our second, but first in this three-part series that we're doing. Last week we talked high level about 3 campaigns in membership, and today we're doing a deeper dive into recruitment. Um, Next week we're going to talk about onboarding. We'll talk about renewals after that. So each one is going to be about 30 minutes, standalone sessions. You can attend one of them, you can attend all of them and get full value still. But if you make it to all three, the goal is it'll change how you think about essentially the core pieces of the member life cycle, right? So that's the whole purpose here. So let's go ahead and dive in. A quick word on who I am before we dive in. So I am Brittany, the Senior Marketing Manager here at Prop Fuel. Prior to joining the Prop Fuel team, I spent about a decade in associations and membership and marketing roles. So in my prime, I had built many recruitment campaigns, onboarding, renewals, win back, the whole 9 yards. So I always say the membership topic is very near and dear to my heart. It's what got me into the association space and into this role. And I love talking about this. I could talk about it for hours, but we're gonna try and condense this into 30 minutes. Um, 1 minute on prop fuel as well, so that the case studies and really like the methodology that we're talking about today makes sense. So as I'm going through this too, go ahead and drop in the chat. If you are a client of PropFuel, go ahead and say yes. If you are not, say no, just so I have an idea of, wow, so many clients. Hello, hello. Hello, past clients. Hello, not clients. Hello, all of the people. Um, Okay, it's always helpful to get an understanding of who's in the room, right? Because some people this is going to sound very familiar to them, to others, it's going to sound new. But again, we won't dwell on this, but long story short, we are a member insights and engagement platform. We are built specifically for associations. Um, in plain terms, we help you understand what your members actually want so that every interaction with them feels personal instead of generic. The whole platform really runs on 3 simple moves, right? This ask, capture, act framework. So you ask a question because engagement should always start with a question, not this like broadcast email or this tell mentality. You capture that answer because every response teaches you something about that member. It gives you insights into your member's needs, wants, etc. And then you act on it, right? And that's the important part is like you ask a question, you get that feedback. And if you do nothing with that feedback, the first two steps are really pointless. So the important part is really like learning how to act on the information that you're given, so that you are really personalizing any follow-up with members and you're showing them relevance, right? So again, ask, capture, act. Hold on to those three words, because the campaigns that we'll go through later are really that loop in action. And at the end of the day, everything that we do comes back to like one core idea. And that's this idea of like, how do we make membership meaningful for each member? All right, stepping off my prop fuel soapbox. So here is what today is going to look like. We've got 24 minutes. We're going to start by reframing the problem because I think that most teams are really approaching recruitment in a way that's making it harder than it needs to be. We're going to do a webinar probably next month on, are we overcomplicating membership? Yes or yes. So keep an eye out for that one because I think that's going to be a ton of fun. But anywho, we'll walk through the framework. We'll show you a couple of real campaigns that have used that framework. And then we will close with three things that you can do this week, if not today. And then we'll ideally have some time for Q&A at the end. But I like to keep these very conversational. So anytime you have questions, comments, concerns, whatever it may be, please feel free to drop that in the chat and we'll get to those kind of as we go, just in case we are running short on time at the end because I talk a lot. All right. So before we get into tactics, here's one thing I really want you to sit with. So most associations are treating recruitment like a discovery problem, right? So the focus is like, how do we find the people who might want to join? And that is absolutely part of recruitment, right? The bigger opportunity, though, for most teams is the opportunity that's right in front of them. And that means the people who are most likely to join your association have already shown up in some way. Uh, they've come to your website, they've attended your conference or a webinar or an event. They've downloaded a resource. They've somehow made it into your database as a contact record. Um, they likely know you exist. And the problem isn't that they haven't heard of you, it's that you haven't followed up with them in a way that's relevant to them. And you haven't given them reason to take that next step. So before you build any campaign, this is something that you can kind of think about in the back of your mind right now, right? So rank your prospect segments by how warm they actually are. So we've got like event and webinar attendees. Those are probably your warmest audience because they've shown up, right? They've had to take that additional step to actually show up to a conference or a webinar or what have you. Website visitors are right behind them. So the intent was there. You just maybe didn't catch it in time. And then you've got your non-member contacts who, again, already likely know you exist. It puts them miles ahead of a cold list. But again, we need more data and we need more insights from these people to know how to engage them. So you can start here. You don't have to start from scratch. So again, we're focusing more on what to do and how to acquire members or prospects that are already within your realm versus the how to catch new prospects. So keep that in the back of your mind as we're going through this. Uh, One thing I do want to push out here before we dive into, again, the examples is that something new that I'm super excited about. Again, keep in mind, like my background is membership. So some of the things that we're working on and what got me to Prop Fuel is the excitement for what the platform does in order to help these roles. So finding your warmest prospects used to be a very manual process. You'd export lists, you'd eyeball the data, you'd guess at all the patterns. One thing we're introducing now, if you haven't already heard, is this idea of we have membership AI, this overarching addition and expansion of the product. And two pieces exist in our live right now within that piece, and that's signals and segments. So Prop Fuel can now do the finding for you. So it reads signals across members and contacts that are engaging with you in your AMS, what they're asking about, where their intent is, how they're showing up, and it's going to surface them automatically for you. Um, this is a really good example of kind of what that looks like, right? So we've got, oops, let me go back. I'm spoiling it for you. We've got examples like this. This is from an actual client of ours. So we've got people who are showing up as engaged leads, people who want to rejoin, people who are raising their hand, and again, showing these signals. So you don't have to necessarily know what to look for now. You have a friend, you have a buddy that's going to look at those things and identify them for you. And what's more, so again, that's the signal piece of it. What's more is the segment piece. So it doesn't just stop at the insight and the signal that it's shown. Once PropFuel sees a signal, it will then identify a segment to act on it. So this is the actual group of people who fit. They're ready to receive the right follow-up. And most of them, we've got like dynamic lists. So again, it's like a living and breathing list. But you can also do some imports and have more of a static list if needed. But again, the whole loop we just talked about, this ask, capture, act, PropFuel can now help set up the who for you, taking away some of that manual work. And you're not just building segments by hand anymore. You are left to review the ones that are already built and then just hit go. So very cool. If you have any questions about that, reach out. Okay, diving back into the problem and the topic at hand. So most recruitment campaigns, let me take a step back. These are typical reasons why most recruitment campaigns underperform, even when the audience is warm. So the person who attended your annual conference sat in 3 sessions, went home thinking, I should really join this organization. They're getting the same email most often, the same email as somebody who clicked an ad once and forgot about it. They're getting the same message, same timing, same channel, because we tend to just bundle all of our non-members into one list, do one large recruitment effort, and then hope for the best. So when none of them convert, when none of these people in these separate lists convert, you don't know why. And you can't improve what you can't see. So that is more so a listening problem than anything. And the good news is that it's fixable. So let's talk about what the alternative looks like. And again, that's the loop that we've been talking about, right? So it's this ask, capture, act. So it's the same 3 moves. We're again focusing in on recruitment. And in practice, that's going to break down into 4 steps. So it's pretty simple in concept, harder to execute without the right tools, but the thinking applies regardless of what you're using. It's still doable. So step 1, as we talked about before, you don't have to start with the full list. Start with whoever is closest. I know it's very tempting to go broad. The more contacts equals more conversions is typically the thought process there. But if you really think about it, a warm audience of 500 will almost always outperform a cold list of 5,000, right? So before you do anything else, figure out who has shown some level of intent. So event attendees, webinar registrants, people who created an account on the website and didn't join. That's really your starting point. And if you're sitting here and you're thinking like, ugh, Britt, that's so manual for us. I do know of a system that might make it less manual for you. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Um, but step 2, once you've identified that group, this is the one really that changes everything. So it leads with a question instead of a pitch, right? I know that sounds counterintuitive. You want to tell them about your benefits. You want to tell them everything that you have to offer because that's how we would get them to join, right? Like they need to know about it. But the thing is they've likely already seen your benefits page. They likely already know a little bit about your organization. So if that process of telling them everything was going to work, it would have by now. So what you haven't done likely is ask them what they actually need. Like what's most important to you professionally right now? What is a need that you have? What is a job you're trying to get done? That one question is going to tell you more about how to follow up than any demographic data that you have on them, for sure. Step 3 is going to be the question that, or the step that most associations skip entirely. So this is surfacing the hesitation. So once you ask people about joining, there's always people that are going to say like, now's not the time. I'm not ready. I'm not interested. So asking people what's holding you back from joining, just like sit with that for a second. Um, in the chat, let's see, who's still tuned in. When was the last time you asked a question in a recruitment campaign? Have you ever? Maybe we'll start there. Yes or no? Every month, Kristen, love it. You guys are using Prop Fuel, right? Maxine is not sure. No. Wow, this is great. Kristen, tell me a little bit more about what your setup is for asking questions. As you guys go ahead and enter that in, um, the answer that you get from this can really change everything, right? So somebody who says cost is going to need a completely different response than somebody who says, I'm not sure this is relevant to me in my career. So you can't address the hesitation that you don't know about. And if you don't address it, then the people are quietly going to move on and you're never going to find out why. Step four, again, we talked about like a four-step framework here. So step four is where the real magic happens, right? So once you know what somebody needs and or what's holding them back, you can stop sending the same message to everyone. You're going to customize that response. So the person who said cost is going to get a message about the value or payment options or a discount opportunity. The person who said relevance, they're going to get content that speaks directly to the role or the challenge that they share with you. The person who said timing is off, they're going to get a softer nurture sequence, right? That maybe checks back in 30 or 60 days. Like it's now the right time for you. So it's the same campaign, just different paths. And it really shouldn't be complicated. It might sound complicated from afar, but really it's listening and responding based off of the response, right? So that is the framework we're working off of. I'm going to now show you what this actually looks like. We're going to go over two campaigns. One of them is the campaign that we started with last week. So if you were here last week, this is going to look relatively familiar. The next one is going to be brand new, so bear with me. But if you did not attend last week, then this is going to be relatively new for you. Both examples will be. But again, same approach. They're just going to be different starting points. Can you all, if you were here, and we're doing a lot of yes, no engagements questions, but if you use or if you were here last week, can you drop a yes, just so I have an idea of two of who is all here and who's going to be. Okay, cool. We've got a mix of people who were here last week, a mix of people who are new. Fun. Okay. So diving into the examples, first one is American Academy of Model Aeronautics. This one you're going to see across the three series because this is the example we broke down last week. And it does a really good, this campaign in general is all about bringing these three moments together into one story as opposed to separate stories, because again, that's how your members see their member experience. So AMA, this example is people who have visited your website, right? Because if they're visiting the website, they're likely interested in some way, shape, or form. So AMA had massive website traffic. They had pilots, hobbyists, people who wanted to learn how to fly, all showing up on their site regularly, but they didn't really have any way of knowing who those people were, what they were looking for, whether any of them were close to joining. So visitors would arrive anonymously and then they would leave the same way. They would show up unknown, they would leave unknown. So AMA added one question to their homepage, what brings you to the site today? And then based off of the response that people gave, they had a follow-up set up for that. So one question, four paths. So apologies for this being a little bit fuzzy, but I think you can get the general idea here. Behind that question, here's what's actually happened. Here's what actually happens. This is the Ask, Capture, Act loop really running live inside the platform. So on the left is what the visitor sees, right? What brings you to the site today with the four options. In the middle, we've got the question workflows. So those are really like the routing rules. someone who picks become a member is going to get sent to the enrollment page. They're also going to be added to, so they're going to be sent to the enrollment page. They're going to be sent an email with more information too, in case they need that as a follow-up. And then they're going to be added to a new member acquisition campaign. So this is like the nurture side, right? Someone who picks renew is going to be routed to the renewal flow, find a club, or learn to fly. They're going to go somewhere else entirely. Um, so the key thing here is that based off of the message, what the member is telling you, they're going to get a relevant response and a relevant follow-up. So if I go to the website to renew my membership and you start telling me about where I can fly, like that's not really relevant, right? So I want to go to your site. I want to learn more about what I'm there for or do what I'm there for and then carry on with my day. The other thing is that AMA built this once and it runs on its own. So every visitor can self-select and the right message will find them automatically. So that's like that act part, right? So once someone raises their hand for the new member acquisition side of things, the conversation here doesn't stop. So it keeps going through this automated email nurture series. So this is really the become a member track. The first email opens warm, so hey, we're here for you. What would you like to learn more about? Again, gathering insight instead of just assuming that they want to know everything. We're learning, okay, what do you individually, what do you, Brittany, want to learn more about right now? And then basically based off of that, the series will adapt to show the people what's relevant to them, right? Then a little bit later comes an email that also does the real work, right? If they haven't joined by now, there's that question that's surfacing the hesitation of, is there something holding you back from joining? Um, it's not pushy, it's just curious, right? And it's intended to help them get to where they need to be. So every answer is going to route them down a different path with a different message. And again, ask, capture, act, just structured across a series of emails. The part that I want to pay attention to, because this is the insight most associations never get, is that when AMA asked what was holding people back, they got real specific answers. So cost was far and away the barrier. And the real magic here is that each of the answers triggers a different follow-up email automatically. So again, someone who says cost is going to be sent to this landing page that says like, let us help you. Like, we don't want this to be the barrier for you. Let us get you in the door at a trial price so that we can then show you the value and suddenly cost shouldn't be an issue anymore. If somebody says that they don't have anyone to fly with, they're going to be sent to the community page, right? So, hey, we can help you find a community if this is of interest to you. So again, showing people relevance based off of the hesitation that they're showing. That's the whole point. So this is where that approach landed. In a matter of months, AMA captured over 7,400 contacts and converted over 3,800 of them, which generated just over $304,000 in revenue, which is awesome. Their engagement rate was 14%. That's about 7 times what you would expect from a typical website pop-up. Also awesome. And all in all, this is to show you that like everything that we're doing does have value in it, right? There's an ROI there. This does work. And it all starts with a simple question. So next example is APS, American Physical Society. This is an event attendees. So one of the audiences that we had mentioned at the beginning is event attendees. So they had a list of non-member event attendees. They wrapped up their Global Physics Summit. So a huge event, lots of attendees, a good portion of them being non-members. And that was the challenge in a nutshell, right? You've got a room full of engaged people who clearly care about the field. The event ends and everyone goes home. And then that energy just evaporates if you don't do something with it. There's a very narrow window right after an event where attendees are at their warmest, and it's not because of the temperature in the conference rooms. It's definitely not because of that. But most associations let that close, right? And so here's what APS did. It is wonderfully simple. They sent a single follow-up email to the non-members who attended. It gave a teaser of membership benefits, and then it asked just one question again, would you be interested in exploring the benefits? So four options, four answer options here. Um, and really the point I want you to notice is again, they're leading with a question. Because the question does two things that this email with a laundry list of benefits and just tell can't do. Um, the question gets you a response and it tells you exactly how to follow up with each person. And that's the whole approach. Um, so the part that makes this work, again, is that every answer went somewhere different. So the two yes answers routed straight to a joiner benefits page, and then into another follow-up campaign. And the interesting ones here are really like those soft answers, meaning like the people who said possibly, I'm not sure, or no, I don't want to join it this time. Because these people didn't just get dropped, they got routed to a follow-up question that then surfaced the actual concern. So you're getting real data from real people on why they don't see the value or why they're choosing not to join right now. And that's how you turn a maybe into information that you can actually act on. So again, you can take a look here at what came back from those and who expressed hesitation. The single biggest reason was another reason, which again, you can get feedback from that opens up an open text field. People can put in their reason and then you can summarize that. PropFuel has an AI feature in the backend that will summarize that for you if you get a ton of responses that you can't necessarily manually sift through, which is super helpful. The second biggest reason was that there wasn't enough time to take advantage of the benefits. And that's not really a no, right? That's a convince me it's worth my time. And that's an easy thing to work through, right? 19% said that the value of membership was unclear. Again, a messaging problem that you can fix. 14% said cost, and only a small slice of folks, the retired folks at 6% are likely a genuine or permanent no. But also, if you have a retired program, you can directly lead them to that. So every one of these is addressable. And you only know that now because you asked. So a no that you understand is a roadmap. A no that you ignore is a lost member. Keep that in mind. And then again, like to show the results of these campaigns because sometimes it's great to be like, yeah, you did this campaign and the setup seems great, but like what actually happened from that? Here's what came back. So more than 360 people raised their hand in response to that email. So 368 conversions, all from one well-timed question to a warm audience. All right. So we have, before we wrap up, we have talked through two real campaigns. I'm realizing right now that like 30 minutes goes super fast. But we've got AMA starting from website traffic, APS starting from a room full of event attendees, same framework, different starting points. There are dozens more examples like this. I would love to go through all of them, but I only have 2 minutes and I would not be able to go through all of them in those 2 minutes. So list-based campaigns, lapsed member win-back campaigns, chapter recruitment, you name it. If you are not currently working within PropFuel, you want to see more of these examples, go ahead and we're going to put a link in the chat to set up a time to call. Talk with the team, see what other examples are out there. If there's a completely different use case that you want to go through, great. We can talk through that as well. If you are currently a client of PropFuel and you are focusing on member acquisition and you feel a little bit stuck, our client success team is here to help. Definitely reach out to your CSM. If you're not sure who that is, reach out to me and I'll get you guys connected. But again, like we can get this set up for you, and we're here to help. So if you have a couple more minutes, we are wrapping this up, right? So being clear about like what PropFuel does and how this helps. Actually, sorry, before we jump off, Jennifer is asking how can we get added to the next workshops? Alejandra, if we have the registration list, let's go ahead and, or the registration link, let's go ahead and add that in. Before we get to questions, I promised you guys some 3 takeaways that you can use this week. If you have a call at 12:30 p.m. Central Time, whatever that means to you, I apologize if you're going to be late to it. But okay, 3 things that you can take back to your team this week. So the first is 1, figure out where your warmest prospects already are before you build anything. right? Rank them by intent, not by list size, and see what happens. This is going to be a super interesting activity. Second, write the question and then also write the hesitation question while you're at it. What is one thing you want to know about these prospects in order to help convince them to join, help show value so that they join? Um, you will be surprised what people tell you. And then third, stop measuring opens and start measuring answers and the feedback that you're getting. So an open tells you someone saw the subject line. An answer tells you where they are in the decision, and that's the data that's actually going to help you. So keep that in mind. Would love to hear if anyone does any of these three things over the next week. So take a screenshot of this. We're also going to send out the recording after this, so if you need it, you'll have it. If you have any questions, we're going to start wrapping this up. I know some people probably have to hop off at the half-hour mark, but if you can hang out for a little bit longer and you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat and I will go ahead and address them. Otherwise, thank you all for joining for this 30-minute webinar. If you, uh, Natasha is asking, are these pre-built campaigns? Potentially. And by that, I mean, you can, within PropFuel at least, you can build your own campaigns from scratch, but we also have what are called blueprints. So a lot of these are going to work off of blueprint campaigns, which are AI generated templates. So it's going to pull information from your website and build a campaign based off of best practices that we've seen across clients and in the space. And then you can just go in and review, revise as needed. But that helps save a ton of time. It can literally build you like a 12 series campaign, like a 12-step campaign in 3 minutes or less. It's wild. David is asking, should prospects be contacted personally or in another manner? Can you elaborate on that a little bit more? Are you saying like one-to-one, or should we be personalizing? I have an idea of how I want to respond to that as you're typing. What I'm hearing is, oh, for phone calls, virtual mail. Yeah, why not? I think that the you don't want to lock yourself into just one channel. The question becomes, how do we contact prospects efficiently and effectively and in a way that matters to them, in a way that's going to catch their attention? And honestly, like asking them a question at the beginning is a really good place to start. And that's because sometimes you are going to have a prospect list of hundreds of people, and that's going to take a lot of time. Um, so if you're calling 500 prospects, that could honestly be a waste of time, meaning you're putting all this time and effort into people who just want to be emailed. So my recommendation would be start with a question, figure out who the hot leads are because they're showing interest. You can even ask them, like if somebody is interested in joining, ask them how they prefer to be contacted. Ask them how they want to learn more about XYZ. That ideally would help you narrow down like who can be contacted via phone call, who wants direct mail pieces, this, that, and the other. Um, but I would say it also probably, sorry, David, this is a very long response to that question, but it's also going to be dependent on how big the list is and how, again, how warm the prospects are. If you have 5 non-members that attended a webinar, you should probably pick up the phone and call them. Send them an email from your personal email account, send them a card, thank you for attending, because that's low effort for a potentially like high result, high feedback, high return. Um, but again, if you've got thousands of prospects, calling all of them is going to be very unrealistic. So figuring out how you can reach them individually would be a good place to start. All right. Did I miss any other questions? If you have any other questions and you're still hanging out, feel free to drop them in the chat. Mark says incorporating email question and a personal phone call connection works best for me since my audience is mostly in the field and not on a computer. That's a good point too. It's going to be very dependent on, like, my last association was Emergency Nurses Association. They don't sit at a computer and wait for emails to come in like people who work a 9 to 5 at a desk job do, right? They're on the go. They need something quick. They might be more inclined to a text message or again, a mail piece or a quick email. What's easy for them to see that they can respond to instead of like read? Put yourself in your member's shoes. Are you going to read a lengthy email with all the benefits, or are you going to see that and say, I don't have time for this? I'm going to move on, or I'll come back to it, and then you never come back to it. All right.